Welcome to the Gen X Pole Arts Podcast, Fit, Fierce, and Fearless. I am Zen, also known as Nancy Adzentovich, the founder of Gen X Pole Arts. I am happy to be launching this podcast where we are going to be celebrating the strength, resilience, and potential of women over 40 in the vibrant world of pole dance. I'm excited to embark on this empowering journey with you guys. And each week, we will connect with inspiring women who are redefining what it means to thrive in their 40s and beyond. From incredible stories of personal transformation to tips on building strength and confidence, we'll explore the boundless possibilities that pole dancing offers for self-expression and empowerment. Whether you're a seasoned dancer or just curious about the journey, there's a place for you here. So grab a cup of coffee, a sparkling water, whatever turns you on, and get comfortable. Let's celebrate the incredible power of women who are embracing their passions and pushing boundaries at every age. And don't forget to subscribe and join our community on social media and sign up for the 15-day pole dance challenge if you haven't done so already. All right, now let's dive into today's episode. Welcome to Fit, Fierce, and Fearless, episode 28. I am Zen, you guys know, also known as Nancy, and I'm really excited today because I'm doing something a little bit different. I'm switching things up. I have with me as a guest a very dear friend who I've known for more than a decade at this point, maybe even close to 15 years, 12 years, something like that. Anyway, Shana Pereira, who is somebody who I met when I first moved to Los Angeles to start the business or to build the business for the advertising media agency that I was working for at the time. She was, I think, the first or second person who I hired. And she is a remarkable woman. I met her when I was speaking at a conference, and she was working someplace else, and she was attending the conference. And at the dinner afterwards, she came up to me and sat down at the table and just started asking me questions. And I was so struck by this young woman who was so proactive and confident and curious and had really interesting questions to ask me that I ended up offering her a job. Over the years, she became my right-hand person in the office. She became the regional manager, and I went into a global role. And it was just an easy, fun kind of partnership. I trusted her with everything. So Shauna was there with me when my husband got sick, as you guys know from previous episodes. She went through that with me. She's been still in my life as I've changed jobs and been laid off from jobs, and has started her own company, and we've worked on things together on the side, et cetera, et cetera. And today we're here to talk about her journey, which does not include pole dancing yet, but I'm determined to get her into a class and into the studio. And we're going to talk about why it hasn't happened yet. I hope you guys will spend a few minutes listening to her story. We are going to have some interesting links in the show notes afterwards for you guys if you want some more information or can lend some help, because we do need to ask you guys to spread this podcast around, share it as much as you can, like it so that it can get boosts in the Spotify and the Apple algorithm, because Shauna needs help finding a kidney. So I know I'm not putting her on the spot and putting her here to ask anybody for that, because it's a very personal, vulnerable, and can be awkward position to be in, but I'm saying it for her. And Shauna, I am very happy that you're here. I know it takes a lot of courage to come tell your story, and I appreciate that. I see that. I'm holding space for you here. You can share as much about your journey or as little about your journey as feels comfortable to you today. But welcome. My goal is to get you to a point where you're going to come into the pole studio with me.
Thank you. Thank you, Nancy. I can't wait. I really cannot wait to have this kidney transplant and be able to do exactly that. So thank you. Thank you for
You
having
are welcome. Yeah. So do you want to maybe you want to talk about how we met or what you were doing when we first met? Because I'm amazed by your story and the clients you've worked for and the roles you've had and the innovations you've brought into the world through the jobs you've had and also since.
Thank you. I really appreciate that. First, I have an accent, obviously. Obvious. I don't
Just
know.
a little.
A little
Oh,
accent.
and here's a funny side comment. I changed my Siri to be the Australian woman's voice because I was like, "Oh, I wanted to sound like Shauna when I talk to Siri."
Thank
So every
you.
time Siri gives me directions or suggestions, I think of you.
Thank you. Thank
It's not
you.
as pretty as your accent, but
I appreciate that. Well, my accent is Australian, and I actually moved here in 2003 when I was 22 years old. And the goal was just to be here for a year and then go back home and do whatever job I wanted. Because once I'd worked in Los Angeles, and I was like, of course, then my career is going to take off in Australia.
of course.
And I ended up staying here forever, or at least until now. And when we met, I had I that dinner actually was really interesting because I was wondering what to do next in my career. I had just been one of the key planning members for the Best Job in the World campaign, which still to this day has won the most amount of advertising and marketing awards in the history of advertising and marketing awards. And it was in 2009 before Facebook had a like button. And so
Mm,
I'd gotten really deep in social media in 2009. Like, who does that?
yeah.
The internet was barely here, right? That was still when we were wondering how many emails we were going to need because one felt like too much. Now I've got six.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
um, so that dinner, I'd spoken to a colleague whose name is Paul, and I said, "What would you do next? Like, you've seen my career kind of, roll out. What would you do next?" And he said, "You have to understand everything there is to know about human behavior around search engine marketing
Hmm.
and around how people search, because that's going to take over the world. And you need to understand the psychology behind that, because tied with your brand marketing, you'll love it. And I'm
Right.
really great at math." And he was like, "Oh, you're gonna have a blast. You love measuring things, you're into analytic, you're gonna love it." And so then you spoke, and I thought, well, that's weird. Like, here's an expert talking about search. He just told me this, and it was actually in Marina Del Rey, funny enough. And I'm like,
Hmm.
he just told me this like on the boardwalk like 5 seconds ago, and then here you were speaking. So I was really blessed to work with you because coming from my background, even my education level, the formal education I have, et cetera, Omnicom was never a place that I was going to just get hired by applying online.
Right.
Like, I have been very lucky to have people like you that have believed in me along the way and that have given me opportunities that sometimes they've been well beyond my expertise, but a match for my level of faith, frankly. Of,
Mm, I
and I've
love
always
that.
felt that. I've always felt like I don't know how to do much, but I know I'm going to find out. And I know I'm going to find the person that knows how to do it. And I'm going to ask
Hmm.
them whatever I need to ask them to be able to figure out
Right.
how to do this thing. So, um, I even remember our interview where it was like, "Do you know how to do this?" I'm like, "No. What about this?" "I don't know how to
No,
do
but
that."
I could probably figure it out.
But what
But
I
the
did
thing,
know was people, right? And relationships and like how to bring people together. It was always my specialty.
hmm still to this day. And I
Thank
think what was interesting back then is the internet was so new, like you're saying, and like search engines, paid search, organic search, we were still figuring out, yes, I had already been doing it for like at 5 years or so at that point.
Yeah.
I started at the very beginning, but we were still trying to figure it out. And even the search engines were figuring out, the algorithms were changing. I think today I equate it to where we are with AI and
Right.
how people are using AI and figuring out what what are the use cases for AI? How are people using it? How is it going to fit into our lives? Um, that's where we were with search back then, and social media too. It was like we didn't sell anything yet
No.
on Facebook or Instagram. There was no TikTok, there was Pinterest eventually.
We didn't even have a love
And
heart yet. There was only like the thumbs up and like a couple of others.
yeah, thumbs up. Oh my gosh. And so your attitude of curiosity and resourcefulness and tenacity is exactly what was required at that time to be successful. Like people who thought they were just going to come into this job and execute something they learned in business school were not going to be successful because nobody was teaching this in class anywhere because it didn't exist. We created the class at LMU, right? When we worked together.
Yeah.
Adaptive media and analytics, like it didn't exist. So I needed people to come work for me who were had that innate curiosity about how things work, what motivates somebody to search a certain way, what kind of a result are they going to expect to see when they search for a certain type of keyword, right? And so that's why your answers were perfect and your background was perfect. And to this day, you're very curious and interested in humans and humanism and what drives people and what motivates people, and yeah, trying to figure things out.
No,
So
exactly.
it was
And
perfect.
thank you. I appreciate that. Um, it brings me straight to, as much as I think I know about that, asking for a kidney, I'm like, I don't know how to do this.
Yeah,
Like, I actually really don't know how to do it. You know? There's some things where you're like, I don't know, and I'll figure it out. This one is one where I am stumped. So um, I don't know why someone would give someone else a kidney, except that I would, right? Like, it's kind of like that innate calling of like, of course I would. Um, and I know from personal experience what that's like, where
yeah,
this is one that requires profound partnership, you know,
absolutely.
and
Mhm.
those that want to give me a kidney will be called forth to do that, irrespective of like me, Shana. And I think it's an innate desire that's there, and a calling
Yeah,
almost.
yeah.
I think, again, I don't know.
I don't know either. Eh, yeah, it's much easier for me to say those words because I'm not asking for something for myself, right? So I only can imagine how difficult it is for you or anybody who's in the situation where you need this to continue to live your life.
Yeah.
Period. Stop.
And
That's it. And
yeah,
and so you're asking somebody to give something that is them, like a literal piece of them so that you can live.
yeah,
And that has got to feel very audacious almost. I don't know what the right word is, right? To even ask somebody to do that. But there are people who are very altruistic and who have been through things like you and I have, who do have that desire to do that. There are because they do it every day.
they
They're
do.
out there. It's just finding the right people. And for anybody who's interested or curious in hearing this, the process, if you say, "Oh, I'm interested in donating a kidney," it doesn't mean you're going to donate a kidney because it's not easy to get accepted into the program and then approved as a match. You have to go through some testing to see if you even are a match, like a chemical match, right? Physical match
Yeah,
for the recipient. So it's more like just raising your hand saying, I'm interested in finding out if I would be a match. And then once you find out if you're a match, then it's like, okay, now I have to either, I have to walk the walk, not just talk the talk, or back out, which I think is hard for everybody, but there is always that option. It's just getting people to be tested to see if they're a match. That's the first step that we need right now, right?
Yeah, and the process of living donor for a kidney, the doctors who evaluate you, they evaluate you for all the reasons why they shouldn't do it.
Mhm.
Not widely known that if they have one thing go wrong with a living donor, just one, with one living donor, that there is the potential that their entire kidney transplant division is shut down for good.
Wow.
So they, even if a person has a minor risk of anything or even needing a kidney in the future, they don't move forward.
Yeah.
So the person that they say, yes, you can donate, it's like literally almost impossible that anything will go wrong because they've gone through every test under the entire sun, not just for today, but also predictive to understand whether that person would ever need one. And let's say by chance the person donated a kidney and then did need one in the future, they go straight to the top of the list. So
Right.
they skip out on every other process and they go immediately to the top and they get a kidney almost immediately.
Right.
And
That's
the
amazing.
general wait time here in the US is anywhere between 5 and 10 years.
Right. And how many years have you been waiting?
Well, I've had two stints of this, and this year, this time around, I've been dealing with kidney failure since December 2015, and in total, I've been on dialysis for a total of 7.5 years.
Mhm.
And dialysis really, the lifespan of someone on dialysis is generally only around 5 years. And so the doctors are quite amazed, and that's why we need a kidney sooner rather than later.
Yeah. Yeah. And you've had a kidney transplant.
I have. I had a kidney and a heart transplant Christmas
Mhm.
2020,
Right.
um, and that was a miracle. And
Absolute miracle.
it was on Christmas Day. So my life has actually been saved twice on Christmas Day. And the donor was, she was a 29-year-old and she already had kidney issues. So
Wow.
the heart was perfect, but that's a sign of kidneys. A lot of people have, it's almost 30% of the country that deals with kidney failure. And that's only the people that have been diagnosed, let alone everyone else that doesn't know, because you don't notice your kidney function falling until it's already in failure.
Right.
And you can live very healthily and happily with no loss of body function at all with just one kidney.
Right.
So she was 29. She already had damage on her kidney. Her heart was perfect. So they gave me both of them because obviously I needed it at the moment, in that moment, but they knew the kidney was going to fail. And so
Okay.
this was always predicted that I was going to eventually need a new kidney sooner than what a normal transplant that's successful would have been. So that
Mhm.
transplant, we can consider the heart one super successful and then the kidney needing a second tune up.
Yeah. Uh, um, yeah, it was a miracle. I remember getting a text from you. I don't know how you sent me a text message when you got the transplant. No, it had to have been before, maybe like Christmas Eve when you were in, but you hadn't gotten the transplant yet.
Yeah.
Does that sound right to you? Because I
Yeah.
remember I got a text from you and I was like, does this mean she's getting the transplant today? And
It
then the next thing I knew, I heard like a few days later with the
it
story
might
of what.
have been they called on Christmas Day at 10 p.m. and then my
Mhm.
surgery was the 26th at 2 p.m. it was scheduled for. So it was
Yeah,
probably in that window over Christmas night to the morning.
Yeah, it
Because
must
I
have
couldn't
been.
sleep that night. I was like, oh my God, like I had so much energy and like, I mean, there was so much light shining in through everything. The nurses were excited. We'd been praying that night. It was COVID, and
Right.
all of the nurses couldn't be anywhere near me. At that point, my heart was at 8%, I think. And um, I remember sitting there and saying to God, all right, well, this is your moment. If you want believers, we all need a miracle. We're in COVID. Like we're all stuck in the
Right.
house. We're all in the house bored and we're bored in the house, right? Like it was like no one can see anybody. This year
Right.
has sucked completely for everybody in the world.
Mhm. Yeah.
And we need something. And I wasn't particularly religious, but I had been in heart failure at that point for 4 months. And I thought, I better get my shit together just in case it's all real, like
Yeah. Right.
just in
Yep.
case. And that was the beginning of this very, very spiritual journey, as you can imagine, because when you're in a position where there's no other human being on earth that can help you, that's
Yep.
when I experienced real life. That was like,
Yeah.
I remember sitting there on Christmas Eve and being like, all right, well, if I die, I die. Like, what are you supposed to do? The doctors are like, we've done everything. Now we wait.
Right.
And so I remember speaking to God and I said, look, if you save me, I will give up all of my human desires and I'll follow my intuition, which I think is you. I'm now discovering this is you. This is how you
Mhm.
talk to me. And I've always been very sensitive to energy, even down to like, I'll have Sage in the office. And if we have a bad meeting, I'm like saging the person like,
Yeah.
energy out of here. But I've always been really sensitive to it. You can't pay me to be somewhere I don't want to be. It doesn't even
Yeah.
make sense, and I'm still a no.
Yeah.
Um, and so I realized that was how I was getting, messages from who I call God, but people say Allah, people say Source, Mother
Mhm.
Gaia, Universe, like all the different terms, right? But that energetic force that we know is kind of there. Um, no matter whether we're religious or not, it's serendipity, it's all that.
Yeah.
um and I remember saying like, look, I'll give up whatever things I think I need, that I'm attached to, like I'll give it up and I'll follow my intuition. Like, you put an idea in my head and I'll get it done, no
Right.
matter how scared I am, no matter how worried I am, no matter how insecure I feel, I'm going to take steps forward.
Mhm.
um Little did I know at the time, but that's how the years played out after
Yeah.
that.
Right.
Um, One of my friends I was talking to, Elise, who you might know from back in our agency days, she was my work wife,
Everyone's got one.
right? She, um, she said, look, maybe dying is the easy part.
Mm.
And at the time, I was like, no way, that was really hard. Now I'm like, oh my God, that was actually easy because it had nothing to do with me, right? Like I was there, but everything was going to happen how it was going to happen. I didn't have any control over it at all.
Right. Right.
But since then, having tasted my body functioning fully and being super strong and being able to go to Soul Cycle and to like, to be able to exercise at my maximum capacity like I
Yep.
used to, and having had 6 months of that and then not, it
Yeah.
feels even worse this second time around because I'm like, I tasted it. It was like right
Mhm.
there. And then now, like, we need another kidney. And it's like, and I say we because I'm always cognizant that there's two of us in my body that I'm accountable for.
It's beautiful. That is beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah. Well, you and I have gone through quite an interesting, I don't know, 12 or 18 months this past 12 or
Yeah.
18 months where we both lost our jobs and trying to work on like a new endeavor that you've envisioned, and I started Gen X Pole Arts, and you've been supportive of me, and I'm trying to be supportive of you throughout. And at the same time, like trying to figure out, how do we pay our bills? How do we like do a side hustle in the meantime? And having faith that it's all going to work out, and constantly reminding each other that, like you're saying, this is the hard part. Like believing that things are going to work out and getting through just the day-to-day stuff that sometimes seems impossible.
It does. And, you know, there's been a few people that have been so generous in wanting to make this video for me to find me a kidney. And, you know, the video was all a sob story. And I'm like, I'm just not a sob story.
You are not a sob story
I
at all.
know.
I
It's
think
not
this is,
even my vibe.
and I don't even see this as, I just see this as introducing you to a different community and a different group of people who deserve to be inspired by you, because you are an inspirational woman, super strong, super creative, and brilliant. And
Thank
you are full of light, even though you have every reason not to be. And that's what I hope whoever is listening, you guys listening, watching, that you take away from this is, no matter what fucked up shit comes at you in this life, how you choose to perceive that and reflect that back out into the world is entirely in your control.
you. Yeah.
What happens is not. We can't control that shit. But where we go from there defines us. And it either makes our lives livable, or we create like a hell on earth for ourselves and for people around us, right? And you are one of those people who have chosen the light. And sure, you have dark days. We all do. I do, whatever. But it's not what you're about, and it's not what you give back to the world. You're
Thank
not bitter. And so I don't see, like, we're not here to beg anybody or whatever. Like, it's not trying to tell a sob story. It's trying to tell an inspirational story. And at the same time, hopefully somebody who hears it will be moved to help.
Yeah, I appreciate that because, um, you know, the last version we tried to do was all like, what's a day in the life of like? And I get that there are people who need to hear that. And, you know, my answer was, whatever version of suck that you think it is, it's 100 times worse than that. Times it by 100, like that's how much it sucks. Like, really, if I actually allow myself to get present to it, it sucks.
Yeah.
It's horrid. It's very degrading. It's diminishing of a person. If you spend 10 minutes in a dialysis unit, it's traumatizing. But I refuse to live in that because while my physical body might be experiencing what it's experiencing, I know that what's keeping me alive, and frankly, what's keeping me as fit as I am, which if you just meet me, I've got energy for days. I
She
can't even
does.
imagine myself with a kidney, to be honest with you. I might
Seriously.
glow something up because sparks energy.
I'm looking forward to that day.
Right, me too.
I'm a little scared, but
Right. But the my mental state is what keeps me alive.
yeah,
And I refuse. There's no room for me to be disempowered. There
right.
just isn't. And, you know, one of my things that I learned from the last time around, people ask me all the time, how did you deal with being on your deathbed? Well, death doesn't need any help from us. If it's going to
Yeah,
happen, it's going to happen. It for sure doesn't need any energy, especially if manifestation, et cetera, is real. Then it definitely doesn't need my energy.
yeah. Oh, I
Chaos
love.
doesn't need my energy. Destruction doesn't need it. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, right? That I have an accountability to myself and to others around me to consistently be empowered. But that also doesn't mean my feelings don't matter. I
Right.
have them. I have emotions. It sucks. There's many days that it sucks. But empowerment for me is the ability to own all of it and be with all of it. On the days that it sucks, I make announcements. Like, you probably don't want to talk to me that day. You
Yeah.
might. You probably don't. You
Right.
know, like, I can't be responsible with what comes out of my mouth that day. So, like, FYI, just to let you know. Even the teams that I've led, et cetera, they laugh because, like, I'm very psychologically open, I guess, where you just know, like, if you're never gonna get like a weird mood from me where you don't know what's going on. I'll let you know, like, I don't feel good today.
Yeah.
Physically, I'm just not loving it. And I can still do things and I can still live my life.
Yeah.
And I have feelings and emotions. I've learned to be able to carry both of them. Like, I can be empowered. And like today, I physically just don't feel good. I woke up in the middle of the night not feeling great. And, some people would choose to reschedule this. And I'm like, no, like, this is who I am right now, includes all of it.
Right.
And so that's my definition of empowerment is however I am, that's how I am. And that doesn't eliminate my ability to bring light and laugh and, you know, find the humor in whatever's happening or the ridiculousness or laugh at how frustrated I get or some version of that, right? Like, it doesn't eliminate the ability to hold both.
Right. Yeah, you're amazing.
Thank you.
You are an inspiration, and I appreciate having you in my life. And I think you do maintain your power and your autonomy over above and beyond what's happening to your physical body. Um, and it's evident in just how you've continued to work and create and build a company and work with clients and be extremely productive and successful in business. And
Yeah.
people that you work with may not even know what you have going on. Like, they
Yeah.
would never know, like on a Zoom call right now, somebody with you, seeing you here would have no idea unless you were sitting here telling them. Like, like you said, your energy is high. If it's a bad day, you know how to steer away from people, whatever, if you need to. And you maintain that level of professionalism and ingenuity and drive despite what's happening with the physical body. And I think that's also beautiful. Yet you do know when you need to take a break too,
Yeah.
which I think is really important, because if you were just operating at that level all the time, you wouldn't have maintained it for as long as you have. Like,
Yeah.
when you need to step back and take a break, you listen to your body and you do that. And I think that's also a great example for everybody who's like working too hard and, getting themselves to the brink of burnout. And it's like, well, if you want to continue on this at this pace and rate, you need to know when to step back and take a break too.
Yeah. And frankly, I am surrounded by amazing people like you that step in for me, that hold the space for me, that cover me. I've had the real privilege of leading amazing teams
Mhm.
that one phone call and three people were like, oh, I got you. I can do this PowerPoint. I'll knock out this, whatever bit that you might be too tired to do. They built in a level of community around me that allows for me to have multiple clients. I mean, even at our agency life, I was,
Yeah.
over 15 clients or something crazy
Yeah.
while I was on dialysis, and they were the
Yeah.
crazy clients, right? Like,
Right.
I always get angry over,
We
like,
gave you all the crazy clients,
I
all the
did,
ones that needed fixing.
especially the ones with big egos. I
Oh,
loved
geez
loved
Louise.
it. I had fun, like, stroking the egos for them because like, they've got big egos because, whatever's happened to them has happened to them, but
Yep.
had a sense of needing validation. I'm like, I'm happy to give it. I'm happy to give you reasons to have an even bigger ego.
Oh
I
my
love
gosh, you're
what
like masterful at that.
I loved it. I can because I have a lot of compassion for it. Yeah, like I could see it. But even inside of that, I think what what has me be able to be who I am is the people that I'm surrounded by truly. Um, and I'm hoping that this video has us add someone to our family, right? That gets to be loved on with
Yeah.
us and be supported in the same way. And I was having this amazing conversation with another friend a couple of days ago, and we were talking about like, what has someone donate a kidney? Just as an inquiry, just like, I wonder what would have that.
Mhm.
And it was such a beautiful conversation that we had. And we arrived at, some people hike Kilimanjaro, some people swim 100 miles, right? Like they train,
Yeah.
and that's their thing for their like lifetime, like experience of that moment where they give back to nature or they give back
Mm.
to, their family, or they do something major in their life that marks a moment. And I had the realization that maybe this is that one thing for somebody.
Mm.
Right?
Yeah.
Maybe this is someone's way to say they left their mark and they made an
Right.
impact. Again, it's
Mm.
an inquiry for me because I'm in the discovery of it myself,
Right. Mm. I never thought of it that way, but that makes a lot of sense actually.
right?
Yeah.
Some people do
Mhm.
like, they do marathons or they
Yeah.
plant 100 trees or, whatever that looks like for them.
Right.
And I thought, wow, that was a different way to look at it. I hadn't thought of
Mhm.
it like that before either.
Right. Yeah. I love it. So, um, what is it do you wanna talk about anything that you're working on now and, like, what your aspirations are for, like, the next 3 to 5 years? Because I think
Yeah.
it's interesting. Ho
Oh,
as
thank
much as you wanna share or not, it's up to you.
you. Well, when I was in hospital the last time with my old heart failing and my kidneys had failed already, I was the I was put on the list on Christmas Eve, 2020.
Mhm.
And we were all praying, you included, Nancy. It was super powerful. We were all praying for a kidney, and it was amazing. So I had people reaching out to friends of friends of friends who
Mhm.
known someone that was passing that they could nominate to like give me their heart and
Gosh, I
kidney.
remember that. Yeah.
Whole thing. It was probably like 4,000 people on Facebook
Mhm.
that were doing that, which I was so blown away by. Because I was in isolation, just literally sitting on the bed. No one was allowed to touch me, come near me. I had
That
triple.
was heartbreaking to know you were all alone during that time in the hospital.
It was one of
Really
the hardest
heartbreaking.
things I've ever had to do because I had to keep my mind focused.
I cannot even imagine, Shauna.
Sometimes I look at her and I go like, I don't know how she did it. I feel so
Yeah.
removed at this point, but it was one of the hardest things. It felt like what I think, again, I've never had it done, right? But I would imagine solitary confinement would feel like that, where the person
Mhm.
has to regulate their thoughts so they don't like wig out uh,
Yeah.
being by themselves. And the nurses couldn't touch me. They would just be able to come in close enough to just take my blood pressure and whatever, but it was very like limited people in the room, door closed, like
Yeah. And that was because they were worried about you contracting COVID, right?
that.
Yeah, because that
Exactly.
was, like, the very beginning when it was, everybody was gonna die if they had COVID, or we thought so, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
the Cedars emergency room was jam-packed. They had 200 beds outside
My
in
god.
the parking lot, transferred the parking lot and the driveway into
Mhm.
hospital
Yeah.
beds. And the risk of me, I mean, you couldn't even sneeze next to me. Even someone just touching me, it would have been over
Right.
if I had even a little bit of exposure.
Mhm.
So sitting there, the we were all praying, and then the next day at 10 p.m., the heart and kidney came. which was a miracle. The doctors came in the next morning, a couple hours before surgery, and they were like, "Oh my gosh, you called it. We were praying for a Christmas miracle. This is amazing." The whole hospital floor was cheering. All the other
Mm,
patients in the other rooms were like yelling and clapping. It was amazing, like just really profound moment. And it was like palpable that something divine was there.
mm,
Even those that aren't religious, they were like, this is like magic. Like it was, and it never happens in one day. They
yeah.
normally take 6 to 8 weeks at the very minimum. So the doctors were all blown away. And when they came in, I flatlined for 2 minutes. And in flatlining, all it felt like was I looked up and I fell asleep. And then suddenly I was in this infinite darkness, like as if your eyelids are closed, but your eyes are open. And
Mm,
I was looking around like, what is happening? Like, where am I? And I was trying to find my body. I remember kind of like looking, like trying to find my body. And then I was like, oh, I think I'm dead. And when I said that to myself, like my thoughts are, I still remember my thoughts racing. When I was like, oh, I think I'm dead, suddenly there's this hallway and I'm looking down, like sideways, like down this hallway. And at the end of the hallway, there was God and Jesus and a light behind them. And I wasn't all the way in the hallway. I was just like at the door, like as if it was a doorway that you're like leaning and kind of looking through,
yeah.
but you're not like in the room.
Okay.
And as I'm sitting there, it's like I'm looking around and going, oh my, I get it. And all of a sudden, this wave of compassion washed over me. Like if you took all of the compassion in the world and times it by 1,000, it literally washed over me. And I just knew where I was. It was very familiar. I just knew where I was. I was just like, I get it. And then I made eye contact with Jesus, who looked like a person. He looked like how he looked in the pictures, but he looked like he was Middle Eastern descent and had been in the sun forever. So the pictures don't really get the like the texture of his skin or the skin tone accurately. Obviously, because it's a painting or a depiction, right? But it looked like just like the pictures. And he looked at me and then he went, like, this is your moment. And then God spoke to me and he was like a black shadow and it was a masculine energy for me. People have asked me that and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you, but it was a masculine energy for me. It maybe
Mhm.
just appeared like that because he knew I was going to listen to him. If he was a cloud or something else, I probably would have been like, what the fuck is a cloud doing talking to me? Like it wouldn't have been.
Yeah.
He knows me well enough to know who I would listen to is how I took it, as
Yeah.
opposed to like God is a man, right?
Right. Okay.
Um, and he said, you are to start a church, all denomination, not with the intention to convert, but to demonstrate that we are all united simply because we are religious. I never intended religion to divide, only to unite. And I said, okay. And then I came back through, and all of a sudden I'm in the infinite darkness again. And then suddenly I'm like, someone's like tapping me to wake me up. And I'm like, what do they want? Like, I'm trying to fucking sleep. And the person kept hitting me. And I like woke up. I remember opening my eyes and being like, and it was CPR. And she was sitting, the nurse was mounted on top of me giving me CPR. And I looked at her and I said, Margaret, relax. And I moved her off. She still remembers. I just saw her a couple of years ago and she was like, this was crazy. I was like, relax. And I moved her off and I sat up and I said, guys, relax. I just took a little nap. Where were we?
Oh my God. I've
And
heard this story so many times and every time
it was hysterical.
I
I
just love
was
it.
like, what is happening? The other nurse was there, three doctors staring at me like they were just like masked with their eyeballs were just hanging out of their head. Like, what's next, guys? They were just like, what in the world? They're like, you flatlined for 2 minutes. And I was like, oh, I didn't even realize. And so they were like, take her to the OR right now. And they raced me to the OR. And the whole way I was like, guys, relax. I'm fine. Why are we running? They were literally like belting down, ripping clothes off, pulling scrubs on along the way, like elevator going back and forth, like going crazy to get me to the OR. Um, and they were like racing to put me under.
Mhm.
And the anesthesiologist, his name is Kave, we'd had an amazing conversation. He did 3 or 4 of my procedures leading up to that day over that 4 months. And so he was like really trying to get me under. And I looked up at him and I said, Kave, you've got me, right? And he said,
Mm.
1,000% I've got you. I'll see you in a minute. And I blinked and woke up 36 hours later. And then 3 days later, I was walking.
Amazing.
It was wild. And from that, I thought, I'm pretty sure God doesn't want me to start a church. Not with the amount of F-bombs that I'm throwing out. Like I'm 100% sure he doesn't want me to start a church. And so I started to look up the definition of church. And I started, the last 4.5 years have been a path of discovery of what did that mean. And what I
Mm.
get is I'm committed to a world united. I bring people together in communion. That's something I've done my whole life. I'm
Yeah.
amazing at throwing a party, and entertaining and bringing people together that know each other or have things in common and like
Yep.
reconnecting or connecting all of us or keeping us connected. It's something that I've done my whole life. I
Mhm.
love being in groups. I've led teams my entire career. I've never been an individual contributor.
Right.
So I started to see the pattern of like, he's trained me for this moment. My father, my parents, they're political activists by force of their background.
Yeah.
My father's a diplomat. My mom, my grandparents, they were all people who fought for human rights. They always brought people together in communion.
Mm.
And so I was born into that. And so it started to map through. And so now what I do is I work with women on their path to sacred leadership, how they can bring their spirituality to work and how they can be true to themselves in any environment, including corporate America.
Mhm.
I also work with leaders of companies and faith based organizations, leaders of companies that are religious, but they're not necessarily selling a religious product. They
Yeah.
just want their morals and values to be implanted and embodied in how they run their company.
Mhm.
And they are nervous about hitting their goals at the end of the year, which I think that's pretty much every business owner
Right.
under the sun. Doesn't matter what industry or what size business.
Nope.
And then thirdly, I bring together people who are in medical crisis and that are
Mhm.
currently suffering.
Right.
And it's not that I can take suffering away, but I can definitely make it a little easier to handle. And you may just be able to insert a little bit of fun and lightheartedness in the process. Just a
Yeah.
little bit even.
Yeah.
That's those 3 areas of impact are where my legacy lives. And I've been really amazed at getting super clear on that this year. The amount of people that are emerging that are coming to me with exactly that in all 3 of those areas is just so humbling that I can make that kind of impact even while I'm on dialysis, frankly.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a beautiful legacy.
Thank you.
So I'm going to put your Instagram in the show notes too. So if anybody is interested in um, talking with you about any of those things where you work with people, they can also message you on Instagram and ask you and connect with you there if that's okay.
Thank you.
Um, so the links that we'll put in the show notes will be how to get in touch with Shauna. Also, I think it's the Mayo Clinic we're going to link to, Shauna,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
For information on how to be a kidney donor, if or how to get tested to see if you could be a match to be a kidney donor, and learn about the process if that's interesting. You guys know you can always leave comments on the episode, and I will respond. And if you want to get in touch with me to get in touch with Shana, you know how to do that too. So thank you, Shana, for sharing your story. It's
Thank
an
you.
incredible, beautiful, inspirational story. I know you're going to get what you need somehow, some way. It's going to happen. And then we're going to see an even more energized version of you, which I can't even, oh my God. Watch out. All of us are in trouble. Um, but yeah, I feel like it was an honor and a privilege to have you in this episode to share this with me. And so, everybody listening, if you could share the episode, that would be fantastic. The more people who hear her story, the better chance we have of getting Shauna into the pole studio
Thank you. I can't
with
wait.
Gen X Pole Arts.
And I just wanted to say, if you don't mind, that people can get tested from anywhere in the country. You don't have to be in Arizona or Los Angeles. You can get tested from anywhere in the country and we can make it work.
Yes, absolutely. Anywhere in the world, right?
Yes.
Anywhere in the world. Yes. You don't even have to be in the US. So if it's of interest or you're curious about it at all, get in touch with me or Shauna through one of the ways that I mentioned, or just leave a comment on this episode and we will make sure we put you in touch with the right people in your area. Thank you, Shauna. I love you.
Thank you, Nancy. I love you too. Thank you
Okay. Thank
so
you,
much.
everybody, for listening. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Fit, Fierce, and Fearless, powered by Gen X Pole Arts. I hope you feel inspired by the incredible stories of strength and resilience that we shared today. Remember, it's never too late to embrace your potential and unleash your passion. If you enjoyed this episode, please, I would appreciate it if you would take a moment to subscribe, rate, and leave me a review. Your support really helps me to continue to uplift and empower women over 40 in our pole dance community and beyond. Don't forget to connect with me on social media for more inspiration and updates. I'd love to hear your stories and share in your journey. So until next time, keep dancing, keep shining, and remember that your strength knows no age.